Yeah.
Okay. Oh, we're gonna be live streaming through YouTube.
Oh, that's even better. That.
Sweet. That's awesome. It's very professional. I mean, I like BTR, but it's becoming a bit of a pain. Ah, okay. All right, let me just let him know because I see Dave on Facebook right now, but I can't get him onto the actual Skype. All right, there we go. He's in. Okay. All right. So before I bring him on, remember, guys, when we start the show on my count, we're gonna start singing "Happy Birthday" to Dave. Okay.
All right.
Not yet though. It's when the show starts.
Okay. Did you guys see the new hoverboard out? You know, they actually made a real hoverboard.
I will definitely be talking about that, the whole hoverboard thing, as soon as the show starts.
Hello.
Hello.
How are you, my good sirs?
I'm doing good, and I gotta think you gotta be doing great right now, considering what we're gonna be talking about in a bit.
Oh, I'm shitting my pants. Plus, for my birthday, someone bought me the Lego DeLorean.
Awesome.
But this is the bit I can't believe it. It's because on the front, you know, Andrew, since you can't hear this, I don't want to sound disappointed with it because I'm like, oh, I don't want the Back to the Future 2 DeLorean, I want the Back to the Future 1 DeLorean. And then when you flip it, it's up to you which one you build. You can build all three of them if you want.
Oh, so they have the part. Well, they have the parts to the second DeLorean, which has the.
Yeah, and they got the extra chunky wheels to the third and the like wooden clock time circuits thing on the bonnet.
Oh, neat.
Yeah.
Yeah, wait, how are we gonna do the intro for the actual song? Okay. All right. Yeah, let's start.
Correctly with the correct one.
And now for our feature presentation.
All right, guys. 1, 2, 3. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Dave.
Guys,
Happy birthday
to
to you.
you.
Usually while I wipe away my big man tears and point out that Miguel was the only one in key.
Yeah, I was the only one in time too, because the for some reason our live stream kind of cut out, so I was hearing us completely off. But if you were crying because that was terrible, I completely understand. This is the Untitled Movie Show for Wednesday, our regular time slot, October 22nd, 2014. I'm your host, Mr. Miguel Leon of Retro Unlim. We're going to be trying something a little bit different tonight. If you hadn't noticed, we are doing the live stream on YouTube. DTR has been a little bit finicky as of late, so we're trying this different avenue. But fret not, folks, because we will be uploading the archived version up to blogtalkradio.com later in the week. So if you usually listen to us through there, don't worry, you'll be able to listen to us. Besides, most people don't listen to us live anyway, so it's not really much of a loss. But this is a new frontier for us, guys. We are going to be trying the live streaming through YouTube, and hopefully it picks up.
In most people's defense for not listening to us live, I think that's probably because Blog Talk fucked us around so much.
Yeah, BTR's. It's one of those very special like TV episodes. We're going to be finally discussing Michael Burhan's sex addiction.
Does that mean you get a telegram from the Queen, Mr. Burr?
Yeah. Yeah. Burhan, this is an intervention. You got to stop the success of Kat Dennings. It's getting too much.
So what you're basically saying is this is our sending Aini 1 minute into the future test moment.
Ooh, Max Head reference. I like that.
That's what I was aiming for.
I was literally driving from Taco Bell when I saw that you mentioned me on Facebook. But yeah, the Avengers 2 trailer that leaked. I haven't seen it because the moment I got here, I hopped onto Skype and started up the show. But I will definitely check that out as soon as the show ends. If it's still up there, I will definitely check that out. I'm really excited for it. This is probably the best thing that could happen to them. I know Hollywood hates the thought of things leaking and whatnot, but this is going to create more buzz for that movie than anything else, than an official than an official trailer release. So I think Disney. I don't know if they're upset right now, but I really don't think they should be. I think they should.
I wonder if they have a hand in it.
Oh yeah, that's going to be you know in this day and age though with the whole online presence that companies have, it wouldn't shock me if they just did that, to drum up some stuff, because right now I can't think of any other movies they have lined up aside from Ant-Man. I mean, it's going to be a cold movie season coming up for them in terms of Marvel. Well, after the background and setup they've done for the other Marvel movies, he had my money already. I mean, given how stuff like Iron Man 3 and Thor 2 and Cap 2 ended, Avengers 2 is going to be an event regardless. I mean, just from so much that they've set up, and they've still got Ant-Man coming up. Ant-Man's still on the docket to be coming
Ant-Man
out.
still doesn't do it for me.
Ant-Man could go either way, given
You know what I mean? Hold on, the building is on fire. Don't worry, I'll make myself really small. Okay,
Well,
Ant-Man, you're really small, but the building's still on fire. But that would make him. Then if he can make himself huge as well as small, then isn't he just basically more powerful than the giant?
basically, yeah. I mean, it's kind of the
He's
way
got
he
both
juggles
ways,
it.
hasn't he? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Ant-Man swings both ways.
in terms of the actual movie, it could go either way, especially given the whole ugliness with the Edgar Wright situation. I mean, you got a first-time director in there. The studio seems to have more of a hand on this one. It's going towards more of a comedy, from what I've heard, than anything else, because of the fact that they're going with the second Ant-Man instead of the first. Which, by the way, I'm happy, because the first Ant-Man is kind of scummy, in my opinion. If you know any. I'm not a big fan of Hank Pym. The whole wife beating thing. I can't get over that. Yeah, yeah. That was actually a plot element with
Why didn't
Hank
she
Pym.
just wait for him to go really small and then she could have beat him back? Sorry.
Yeah, so I can understand why Disney decided to go with the second Ant-Man instead of the first one.
Well,
They are going to
because
have.
they're Disney, isn't it? They generally steer well clear of anything sort of controversial like that, don't they? So.
Yeah, I mean
But it
they
still doesn't mean that you have to make it a complete and utter comedy. I mean,
Well,
I'm not
no,
saying I want something like that, because that's that's bordering on sort of proper movie
Well-
territory, if you know what I mean. But
Well, keep in mind it was Edgar Wright writing it. It was the same. Edgar Wright did Scott Pilgrim, and he's been working with with Nick Frost in his Shaun of the Dead type movies. So, it could have been that kind of comedy, and that could have worked. But without him being there to helm it, I don't know where it's going to go from here. It's that one is a big question mark for me.
if I could just quickly say something about the Avengers 2 trailer. Two things that absolutely blew me away from it. One was Ultron just looks Like, I always thought, Ultron underwhelming. How would you make him imposing or menacing on screen? And he's proper creepy. I mean, how often can you say that from a little snippet on a trailer? In 2, oh my god, the Hulkbuster arm is absolutely
Oh my god! No,
fucking
guys,
amazing.
shit! I haven't seen it yet. No spoilers. No spoilers at all on this one. I have not seen it. Once you said Hulkbuster, I'm like, shut up. I don't want to hear anymore. I'm going to watch this as soon as the show ends. In fact, honestly, if I could, I'd pause it just so I could see it. But we're live now on YouTube, so I can't really do that. So
there is one thing, but you know this anyway, so it's not spoilers. Which someone pointed out in the comment section on when Mike, linked it on Facebook, which I never stopped to think about before, and it kind of we talked about it, but not directly. The subject we've talked about, which is obviously Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver are Magneto's kids, aren't they?
yeah.
Well, because obviously Fox owns the rights to that bloke, and this is not Fox.
Yeah, and trust me, I could go more into the ugliness between Fox and Marvel right now with some of the things they've been doing. Between that and them killing Wolverine, so they just to spite Fox, because they know that a good bulk of the Fox X-Men franchise is centered around Wolverine.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, they killed off Wolverine in the comics.
How'd you fucking kill it? He's immortal. It's kids, isn't it? It's playground wars. It's embarrassing, really.
Yeah.
How'd you kill Wolverine? He got ripped in half by the Hulk. Hulk threw his legs. All right, that's Ultimate Wolverine. To the other side of the mountain. He crawled back and rejoined himself. Is it cheap? Well, they're going to piss a lot. Their fans and their sales are suffered big time. Whether they think they're getting one over on the movie people or not, that's a fucking stupid decision.
Mm. Well, no, it's not so much Marvel, it's Disney. It's Disney. This is what happens when you're owned by the biggest company in the entertainment world and a company that just does not need to care. I mean, they're Disney. They know in the back of their minds. Yeah. I mean, go ahead. No, I was just gonna keep saying how much Disney is evil, but you go ahead, keep going.
I concur.
Alien.
Don't you mean out of his cryo tomb?
You don't know? Do you get the joke that I did? That reference? There was a robot. There was a robot chicken bit years ago where it said how Walt Disney has been able to keep himself alive by feasting on the blood of the Cuban children. And so there was one thing where they they showed Disney in like 1999, and he's like he has this obsession with Alien Gonzalez. And so there's a part where he like breaks out of his cryo tube, like he's like a spider type robot thing, and he's like he's storming out going Alien, and he tries to chase after him. It's so tasteless but so funny. It's good robot chicken. I just figured that'd be in it. That's a fun. That's a yeah. So
And there's
yeah.
that quite distasteful but still awesomely funny joke in Family Guy, isn't he? When they wake him up, he goes, "Are the Jews still here? Yes, sir. Put me back in."
I'll be making another Family Guy reference tonight, by the way, because of our topic. But yeah, I just. Yeah. I haven't seen anything past the second episode. I gave up after the second episode. I just. To be fair though, I've said it before. Her plot line is probably the most interesting part of the series, in my opinion. Her stuff her stuff trying to. No.
That's my problem with it, though. I know we touched upon this before, but my whole problem with it is I gave up after 3 episodes. Basically, yeah, it should be good, and I'm sure that was the original premise. It should be his bloody show, and it's just, I don't care.
Yeah, it's a lot of references to characters that are too young to matter, or just in there for just nothing more than fan service. And it's like I said, the procedural aspect of it is okay. I mean, it's basically Law and Order set in Gotham, but it's just it has no heart to it. Like it's yeah. Pamela Isley. Trust me, when the Joel Schumacher Batman and Robin movie gets something right that you can't, just call it quits at that point.
I laugh, but it's almost out of pity because you're so on the money with that statement.
Based on who? Oh, I saw that. Yeah, that I'm actually excited for because I love the cartoon. I thought the cartoon was great. I think depending on who you get to helm it, which from what I've heard, it's the people from the Static Shock cartoon series. So I don't have much I'm not too worried about it because to me it's all going to come down to the casting. who they get to play those characters. And if they got a good cast behind it, I think it's going to be something special.
This is my problem with DC though, where Marvel generally got it right, which is Marvel kind of got their ship up and running, very slowly but very surely, and now that's why. Because you think Marvel are everywhere, they're not. Even though it was quite a gradual process. Whereas DC go, Arrow's working, this is working. Screw it, let's just go hell bent for leather and just go batshit crazy. And it's like, no, it's an old cliche, but too many, cooks spoil the broth. It's like, I think that DC, slow down a little bit. I know you want to be up there with Marvel, in how they conquered TV and movie land, but you can't just go batshit crazy and play, think you can play catch up overnight. This is me why some of your shows are basically turkeys.
I mean, they've had plenty of times to set up a universe like this. Like, I was thinking about it, like, at one point they had, the Smallville TV series. They had They had the Aquaman. They were going to have an Aquaman series. From what I've heard, it was actually the Aquaman pilot. I heard it wasn't that bad.
It's on iTunes, isn't it?
Yeah. I'm gonna have to take a look at that. But they had that. I know that they had a Wonder Woman movie, a Wonder Woman TV series in development, which I've seen that one. That one's terrible. But yeah, I mean, they've been trying for years to set up this type of universe, but they're I don't know what to say in terms of
they're bitter. I think they're like, no, hang on a minute, Marvel, that should be us. But well, they did it the right way. They didn't get this empire overnight.
Yeah, I'll tell you this much. I think Fox probably has the leg up on creating a TV universe more than DC, because I mean they still have yet to really tap into the X-Men franchise, and I think that there's gold in that hill. I think when you start seeing spin-off shows on some of the characters on there, I think that's what's really going to kickstart that universe for them. We're going to have to see though, because they're only just now starting to tap into it. And speaking of just now starting to tap into it, I just realized we've been on for about over 10 minutes now, and I haven't introduced you guys.
Hello.
And returning to the show after a long hiatus, Mr. Zach Noon. Zach, welcome back to the show, buddy.
Oh, thank you very much. It's my comeback.
Yeah, it's yeah, it's been a while, but it's great to have you back. You kind of dropped out on us a while ago, but whatever you got going now in terms of whatever your schedule is, it's great to have you back.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
he's finding comfort in his new manageable form.
I wanted to be a man, then I wanted to be a woman again. So it's a bit complicated.
I'm just surprised you have the money to do that, because that's expensive. I've heard stories about people doing that, and I'm like,
you must have missed his Kickstarter, both of them.
yeah.
I basically just sold tickets for the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles films and made like millions of dollars. That's what I did. No way.
I'll have to check that out. Let me pull
Next
that
time
up.
I pass the bus stop, because the only place I know it's on the bus stop.
UK.
That is true. There are four. I keep forgetting there are four technical TMNT films if you count the CGI one from a couple years back.
But surely they would try to distance themselves from the other ones. I mean, the first one was brilliant. The second one has its moments. The third was shit, and the CGI one was just underwhelming. So if it's a reboot, quotation thing is, I think the smart move would be to distance themselves. Or maybe, I don't know, maybe it was an accident or they just had the wrong bloke and he typed it on the UK posters or something, but...
I think it's mostly just the style of lettering makes it look like an S.
No, I think it does look like a 5. Maybe it's just for key value.
Yeah,
they do that in some countries. They number them.
It could be a subliminal thing.
Yeah. I'm going to wake up tomorrow with the strangest to buy 3 really bad Turtles movies.
Well, that film was actually good, even though I ain't seen it. I know it was good because the trailer said it was good.
I've heard that it's okay. I've heard it's not as bad as people thought it was going to be. It's not a great film. It's just okay.
It underperformed, didn't it?
No,
But Megan Fox is in it.
It was #1 in the box office. It made a ton of money. I'm almost guaranteeing you that there's going to be a sequel down the line. They haven't announced it, but as much as that movie made good money, I'd be shocked if there wasn't. I mean,
they're going to follow the original formula, and it just gets cheaper and cheaper and kiddier from here on in. And then there might be some popular X Factor bloke in the next one who's in a club. I mean, never mind. But you know what
I hope Vin Diesel's cast in the next one. That would be great.
I would like for them to get a different director. I'm not a big fan of the director they had. They had the same director that did Battle Los Angeles, and from what I've seen from the clips, he's one of these directors that thinks that moving the camera all over the place is good action filming. And that's not even shaky cam. Lots of cutting, where it's like, cut to this scene, cut to that scene, cut to this scene, cut to that scene. Like, he doesn't know how to tell a concise story or sequence an action movie. So that's the biggest problem I've heard with people, is that the movie's so choppy that it's hard to enjoy. But it is what it is. It's a Michael Bay film.
I was just going to say, is it all choppy? Did he hire this bloke and he likes it with his choppy camera stuff because he's a pupil of Bay?
Well, Bay wants to see the world burn. That's
with some lovely lens flare.
One day we'll get a news flash. Michael Bay dies in an explosion, nuclear explosion.
When they end the news article, they say, "This is Fox News saying that your childhood is now safe, everyone. Sleep easy." I'll tell you what, it's obviously got re-released to cash in on this because they changed the font of it to the new Turtle font. I bought the original Golden Harvest one for £3 in the supermarket, and it's still held up really, really well.
It's cheesy. I've seen it recently. It's a cheesy movie. It's definitely a product of the late '80s, early '90s. But I mean, in terms of the practical effects work with the actual turtle suits and what they were
martial arts in it, because obviously those suits. I remember at the time they explained how much the suits weigh, and it's got really good, martial art action in it.
Yeah, I mean, I'll give them credit for that. I mean, they were able to do stuff back then that. Yeah, the new ones have all the, a lot of the acrobatics and whatnot that you can do with CGI, but I don't know. There's just a distance there when it's not an actual suit.
Mm.
But yeah,
and they were good suits. They were. They're Henson, aren't they? They're made by Jim Henson's company.
I have no idea. I would have to actually look that up.
Sorry, your cave is echoing again, Mr. Burhan.
Burhan.
Oh, it's vacant.
Oh, okay.
Bacon?
Yeah,
Bacon?
he kind of dropped off the face of the earth. But that's neither here nor there. I mean, we could sit here and talk about TMNT till the cows come home, but tonight we're going to be focusing on a different 80s franchise. It is Dave Wade's birthday, and on request, he has asked us to do a special retrospective for tonight. Dave, tell us what film we're going to be looking at tonight.
We're going to be looking at not just my favourite, but the greatest movie in the history of the world and/or cinema. And if you disagree, I will fight you. And that movie is, of course, Back to the Future.
Disagree.
Yeah, well, you can argue when it's your birthday.
It's the best movie of the 80s, let's just say that.
It's definitely one of the high watermarks for the 80s, and one of the few movies, well, not few, there's actually a surprising amount of movies from that era that still have been able to live on, but it is definitely one of those films that has found its place in American cinema. I mean, everybody has heard of Back to the Future, so I guess that's kind of where I want to start off with before we get into the specifics and ask Dave. Dave, why do you think Back to the Future has lasted as long as it has in the public zeitgeist? You know, why do you think this movie, this franchise, has stuck so much over other franchises?
Brilliant. Completely, even though this may sound a bit silly because of, how exaggerated it is, but believable characters you care about. Such simple things as the inclusion of the DeLorean make it, absolutely, some of the imagery iconic. Then also, even though it's obviously set in the 80s, the fact that they go back to the 50s, so there's this whole time divide thing, gives it itself a timeless feel, because it kind of automatically makes the fact that it's set in the 80s irrelevant, because it's going 30 years back into the past, so it kind of, it's like Highlander in that way. It works because it just means, well, you can, it is a movie of the 80s, but you can say it's not really an 80s movie. It just makes it a teen movie, if that makes sense. The whole, man out of time, but essentially it then goes through roughly the same issues, but it's that fish out of water scenario, and just little things like that. The special effects are still absolutely superb. Still some of the funniest, comedy in mainstream cinema. That obviously it is a comedy, but it's not like Naked Gun comedy, you know what I mean? So it's just, I don't know, it's just iconic characters, great acting, brilliant sets, stuff like that, and the music's absolutely fantastic, and not just the 80s stuff, the whole, orchestral score and stuff like that. It's brilliant. It was a moment of, it's one of those, it's as close as you can get to a perfect movie. It's one of those moments where, when it was conceived, no one was smoking crack. Yeah.
Yeah, it's got a great underdog storyline to it, especially at least in the first one, that I like. Like, I agree. I mean, I think it's one of those movies that has been able to stand the test of time on quality. It's just a quality film. It's got great acting. Robert Zemeckis, I've said, is a phenomenal director. I would love to do a retrospective on him somewhere down the line. That's something I'm going to have to consider. But I think he's a phenomenal director. I think this is probably his. I know a lot of people give Forrest Gump a lot of praise, but I think this is his best film. I'll take this over Forrest Gump any day, honestly.
I'm with you on that, not just because it's my favorite movie. Don't get me wrong, Forrest Gump's an absolutely fantastic movie, but clearly, if you had to pick the man's best work, it's this. He created cinematic. Well, he did kind of with Gump as well, but this is just a cinematic masterpiece. Easily his best work. Period. If you listen to this, Zemeckis, it's your best work, right? Punch anyone who disagrees.
We'll get into that actually, because there's a whole ton of backstory to that I want to get into. But
well, it took a while. People forget that it wasn't like it was a perfectly easy creation. There was a lot of effort and work.
Oh, like I said, there's a lot of backstory to the development of this movie. But before we get into that, Zach, you got anything you want to say? Any praise you want to give to Back to the Future? Maybe to agree with what Dave said or what Burhan said?
Well, I do agree in somewhat what Dave said about being Robert's masterpiece, But Robert Zemeckis, I can't really pronounce his name. Yeah, it is his best work. But if you think of it, without Michael J. Fox and Doc Brown guy, I forget his name, is it Christopher Lloyd?
Mm-hmm.
Without those two actors, the film would have been half as good. Even whatever, the script is great, okay, but without them two actors, the film is nothing.
Well, yeah, something I forgot to say, but the chemistry. They've got real chemistry. Oh, they've even got chemistry with Crispin Glover before he got batshit crazy in Hollywood land.
Yeah, I mean, like
they've got the same chemistry as Andrew Garfield.
Crack.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I said, it's a movie that all of the parts come together to make something very special. And man, you talk about a development cycle that was difficult for this movie. This movie had a lot going against it because here's some of the backstory for what it took to make this movie. This movie had been in development since 1980, actually. Robert Zemeckis and writer Bob Gale had been trying to pitch Back to the Future for years in the 80s, in the early 80s, and had actually gotten turned down by every major studio for two reasons. First off, Gale and Zemeckis were just coming off of two really huge bombs. They had
that's right, yeah.
Yeah, they had done Used Cars and I Want to Hold Your Hand, which is a Beatles film, not with the Beatles, but it was based on the Beatles. Both of which were financial flops. So none of the studios wanted anything to do with them. I think at one point they had Columbia signed on in like '81, and then they decided to go back on it against it. Another thing that I didn't realize was a lot of the studios rejected it because at the time you had a lot of these high camp teen sex comedies like Porky's and Fast Times at Ridgemont High, and according to a lot of the studios, the script that they had initially signed to them was too clean. They were like, yeah, add some more boobs into this and maybe we'll take it.
Wow.
But, yeah.
That's interesting, because the other one was where it got into some trouble with, because Touchstone, what was it? It's Columbia? I don't know why Disney wouldn't touch it, in fact, sorry. Well, they wouldn't touch it because of the whole incest angle.
Yeah, the whole his mother falling in love with him was... Yeah, Disney was the only person that rejected it because it was too offensive in their minds, but all the other studios at the time, because teen comedies, the teen sex comedies were huge back then, thought that the script wasn't risque or adult-aimed enough. So they basically would not touch it.
But the plot that I must have been in there, they want him to bang his mum for real or something?
No. That was well, just because. Well, in the case of in the case of Disney, the incest angle turned them off. But like I said, I guess it wasn't. Yeah.
But she's fit. I'd do it. I don't care. If I went back into the future.
I could do without Leah Thompson and I can do without the thought of Leah Thompson and Crispin Glover doing it. Honestly.
Oh, Leah Thompson and Tom Cruise in that other film when he's American footballer. That was hot. That you actually saw full frontal in that.
Yeah, this was Leah Thompson at her best. I mean, was this before or after she had the nose job? I don't remember.
It was before she shaved.
She got a nose job.
Yeah, she got her nose changed. I think in the late '80s, early '90s, and it.
Is she still acting?
Yeah, she was just in the remake of Left Behind with Nicolas Cage.
Huh.
For the same reason that Nick Cage did that movie. They needed the money. But yeah, it actually took till Robert Zemeckis was able to make Romancing the Stone that any studio wanted to have their eye on him because Romancing the Stone was a big hit. So it took a while, but eventually they went back to Steven Spielberg because Spielberg had produced Used Cars and I Want to Hold Your Hand. And they were actually against it at first because they didn't want to be known as the team that couldn't get a movie out without Spielberg.
Yeah, because also 1941, that tanked, didn't it? It was at the time as well.
Well, yeah. I mean, at this point, I mean, keep in mind this was early.
Are you saying that's where movies come out of Spielberg? Sorry.
Steven Spielberg can jizz a good movie in his sleep at this point. He's one of those guys that's bulletproof in terms of directing, in my opinion.
But he raped Indiana Jones.
I'm willing to put that. Yeah, and you know what? Lucas had a hand in that, so I'm gonna go with Lucas on that one because Luke, it's George Lucas.
If you want to blame someone, I feel that blame should be put on Lucas.
Artificial Intelligence, don't you remember those films? Well, that was more Stanley Kubrick, but...
Yeah, that was Kubrick. He was picking up after Kubrick. That movie's not great, but I don't fault Spielberg for it. He was following Kubrick's notes.
I think I might be the only person who enjoys that movie.
Yeah, but as we'll talk about, as you mentioned before, it was actually Spielberg's involvement that actually got the movie to be what it is, because, like you said, there's two different cuts of that film. In terms of casting, they originally wanted Michael J. Fox they wanted Michael J. Fox in the role, but what happened was they couldn't get him away from Family Ties because he was just starting up on that show.
Oh.
And
That's right. Yeah, he was happy to do it because he was a shining star, up and coming shining star. But the studio was just like, no, and he basically begged them, didn't he? Not that people think it was all down to Zemeckis and that, but no, he had a big hand in literally begging the producers of Family Ties to say, look, please let me be in this.
Yeah, and they
You get literally, if you can base it on what's true on the, because there's a whole heap of new documentaries on the Blu-ray. They basically chucked a mattress in the back of a station wagon, and he slept like an hour or something in the journey from one, studio lot to the other.
Yeah, I remember reading that actually in Michael J. Fox's autobiography. I read that back in high school. It's a good autobiography. If you could... Yeah, Lucky Man, that was it. Yeah. But yeah, they originally wanted Fox in there, but Family Ties, the production studio, wouldn't allow it, so they reluctantly went with Eric Stoltz, who, I don't remember what Eric Stoltz has been in. Let me pull up his name real quick.
I think he was a big 80s teen actor, wasn't he? Well, not teen, early 20s at this point. Yeah, but he was...
I'm looking at his filmography in the 80s. He didn't really do much at all. His biggest credit, I think, was playing Rocky Dennis in the movie Mask, and he was under huge prosthetics, so it's not like he was a known actor. So
yeah, trouble. They said he was trouble on set.
it's probably why he hasn't done much since then, honestly.
But the thing is, what was it? Did they shoot 1/3 of the movie?
Two-thirds, from what I've heard.
Two-thirds of the movie, and I don't know. Have you seen any of the scenes? Because they're on the special Blu-ray edition.
The scenes are on the special Blu-ray, but that version of the movie has not leaked online. It's not even around like in the bootleg scene. It's basically, I think Universal keeps that locked up in their vaults.
I think they destroyed it. I think it would have a certain train wreck appeal. It might be amazing, I don't know, I doubt it, but people wouldn't want to accept it anyway. But I think there would be that morbid curiosity to see what it was like. Because, I mean, of the very few scenes I've seen that they did include in the special features, and this is what they said the scenes weren't terrible, but they watched it and they just felt there was no, passion there. And I know it's hard to judge what a movie would have been like based on the snippets you see, and obviously I'm comparing to Michael J. Fox. And this is way after I fell in love with this movie. You just think, you're bland, mate. You're beyond bland.
It's one of those things where it is hard to tell, considering how much the pairing of Fox and Lloyd worked. Which is funny because Christopher Lloyd wasn't even their first choice for Doc Brown. Do you know who their first choice that they originally wanted to play that character?
Oh, I forget. Oh.
John Lithgow.
Do you know what? Though I did actually think this, but this might be because I'm watching a lot of Third Rock at the moment. Because my TV schedule is when I come home from work, so I get all the '90s sitcoms in the morning. So it's kind of like old school Friday night TV. But I don't know. You're probably the only other person I could see as a crazy scientist in that role.
Yeah, honestly, John Lithgow at that point, I could have seen him in that role. Yeah, Put it this way: if they would have done like a live action Back to the Future the series, I probably would have cast him as Doc Brown.
Yeah. And whoever voiced him, whoever voiced Marty McFly in the Telltale's Point and Click adventure, I would have cast him as Marty McFly. Because he does actually kind of look like him, and he can actually play Johnny Be Good for real.
Well, that you could have put Eric Stoltz in that role. You could have done the TV version.
Yeah, but he was just being really bitter at that point, wouldn't he?
Probably.
No, I'm just a B-list Back to the Future guy.
Well, at that point,
Hey, anyone want to find Judd Nelson? We're going to do some crack. Does that mean we wouldn't have got crazy white flowing hair?
I don't know. By that point, I don't remember if John Lithgow even had hair by that point.
But what was the reason they didn't go with him in the end? Was it contractual? I can't remember. Or was it
He was
just
unavailable.
Ah.
I think
Isn't it funny when contractual obligations and being forced to look elsewhere, when normally you'd be like, well, we're getting our second choice, but in this case, it was, thank God, because it made everything so perfectly fall into place.
Yeah.
Thank God for your second choice. I think people have always thought of him in cinema land before this movie as that support actor in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Yeah, I can't really think of anything else he's done before that really pops out. Like it's one of those things where I know that Christopher Lloyd has done other things since then, but he'll always be known as Doc Brown. I mean, it's just it's one of those things that's kind of unfortunate because I can see how that might bother people, but it's just that is.
He's never distanced himself from it though, has he? He's one of those actors. He does all the conventions. He does everything like that. You know, the people say, fans say he's so approachable, and he's one of those people who's just never distanced himself. Because some people kind of say, well, I don't want to be known as this person anymore. But he's always said, I'm very, very happy and proud to have been Doc Brown.
Yeah, I mean, he popped up in that one parody video where it was the hoverboard, the one that Tony Hawk and a bunch of other skaters did, where it was Christopher Lloyd. He popped up with the fake hoverboard, which, from what I've heard, he was upset that they put out a video showing how they made that because he wanted to make people think that was actually a real hoverboard.
It's funny you say that, right? It was on the news this morning, and I didn't watch the whole clip because I went ironically to watch Third Rock from the Songs. I went, oh shit, Third Rock's on, and I'm missing it. And they announced this little segment, but I never watched it when they followed up with it, and saying, look, do you remember the hoverboard from Back to the Future? Well, apparently science has actually come up with something that's not technically a hoverboard, but it's very similar and works. And the lady who does the other segment on BBC, I think she's the businesswoman, goes, well, how would you control it? And it was just one of those awkward but hilarious moments where the main newscaster just said, clearly obvious that she likes Back to the Future, just went, well, with your feet, obviously. I just thought, oh, brilliant, touche. I must look up and see what that is.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I've seen the Kickstarter for it, but I still don't understand how that works. So, but that's going to go back to what we're going to talk about with Back to the Future 2, which is some of the tech that they actually got right. But one more thing I want to talk about as far as the development of Back to the Future. At one point, Universal actually wanted to name it a different name because the president of Universal at the time, Sid Sheinberg, in his words, no successful film has ever had future in the title. So at one point, they actually wanted to change it to, and brace yourself when you hear this title, Spaceman from Pluto.
Yeah, that's right.
What the? It sounds like a 50s film.
Well, that's the whole point. The book mock-up.
Yeah, they were going to, the whole him being Darth Vader from the planet Vulcan, it was originally going to be Darth Vader from the planet Pluto, and I think they even used that title, Spaceman from Pluto, on like a comic book that somebody pulls out at one point. Like that's what they were going to tie the whole movie around. And Zemeckis basically fought him and said, "No, we're not going to change the." Actually, what happened was they ignored it, and then when Sid Sheinberg brought it up in public, they actually made him look like a fool by saying, "Yeah, we got your memo on it. We thought it was a joke. Like, really, Spaceman from Pluto? Like, are you were really serious about that?" And then he was like, "No, I wasn't serious. Go ahead and go with your Back to the Future title."
It made me look stupid in front of the other kids.
I do like that they kind of took the piss out of his own idea.
There's
But,
nothing like winning an argument by simply humiliating the other person.
But yeah, that leads us into the first movie, 1985's Back to the Future, which I think we've all said it before. It's a perfectly well-rounded film. It has so many great pop culture moments in it, and I think that's one of the big reasons why. And I think it starts off with the DeLorean itself. I mean, the DeLorean had just come out. It was all in the news.
The DeLorean was already cancelled at this point.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I forgot earlier on when you said this, because this movie was languishing in development hell. It's funny, if the movie came out, no problems, when they intended it to, in 1980, it does make me wonder if it actually would have saved the DeLorean.
Actually, the big reason the DeLorean got canceled was because John DeLorean got indicted for some cocaine charges, and so I think that led to his company going bankrupt.
But there was that whole entrapment thing as well. But that's not about politics, is sure. Do you know that the DeLorean, people forget this, is actually a British car?
It's a beautiful car. I mean, I still think it looks great even to this day, and I'm surprised that no one has. I'm surprised John DeLorean has not licensed the name out to other companies. He might be. Yeah, I think he might be dead, but I'm surprised that no one's licensed out his name to other sports companies.
Company in California that it's like what they do with the Eagle Jag, which is they bind, because the good thing about the DeLorean is it's stainless steel, so obviously it doesn't decay, apart from the chassis, because that's not. But yeah, there's a company that buys them and then fits it with a real engine, fits it with all proper electronics and stuff like that, and they're perfect. But the problem with that is, to fix it with running working technology, it bumps the price up to something like $180,000.
Yeah,
that would still be amazing to have one.
Mm-hmm.
Oh. Can I go there and leave a comment that says Byrne was first?
They would probably take it off.
Oh, that's right, because we're affiliated with you, Byrne, so that makes us evil too.
Not all of us, and in fact, I'll probably be doing something with them later tonight, if anything, but I don't want to go more into that. But let's get back in. Well, I'm sure that same link got posted everywhere else online, so I wouldn't put too much stock into it, but it is kind of funny.
You just want a walk-on part in the final cut, don't you?
Yeah, I'm really excited to look for it, and I hope by the time I actually do get off, by the time the show ends, I can still at least watch it, because I don't know I don't know what Disney's response is going to be, if they're going to try to take it down, but hopefully it'll still be up there.
I don't know, Dailymotion, people seem to turn, even big companies seem to turn a blind eye to it.
It's because it's not as big as YouTube. Like Dailymotion, it's a big company, but at the same time, it doesn't have the numbers or the subscriber base that YouTube has. I mean, YouTube's run by Google, so they've got a huge leg up in that regard.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Same thing, aren't they?
Probably. But yeah, there's just so much about Back to the Future that just hits pop culture. I mean, the music, the styles. I mean, that even things as simple as that vest that Michael J. Fox wears. I mean, that's just something that immediately pops into your head when you think of that movie. I mean,
check out the life preserve. Dog thinks he's gonna drown.
fair enough.
He sold it though. I do remember in the 80s, people all suddenly, you know, I don't know what you call them, body warmers or jerkins they were called over here. Probably I can understand why they weren't called a jerkin in the States now, obviously, but yeah, I remember people, he made wearing your headphones outside the shirt line a fashionable statement.
You had headphones in the 80s. I thought they were beatboxes, weren't they? You'd carry on the shoulder with like D batteries and everything.
Well, he popularized. He must have. And it's funny. People always think about and talk about it when you say like pop cultural references, Miguel. People always assume that it's a Walkman. People, hey, do you remember the bit when he takes his Walkman out and he, plays the Van Halen music to George in the middle of the night, and it's stuff like that's not. You go back now and it's a generic like department store personal stereo. But you know, they sold personal stereos. JVC credit him with sales of that camcorder. I mean, that was state of the art at the time. It's huge now, but yeah, that was
a JVC camcorder, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And it worked on a 50s telly.
Well, you look really carefully at that scene. The leads are on top of the telly. They're not actually even plugged into it. But
that is bullshit. It wouldn't work on a 50s telly. It's like AV cables or something.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's at Doc Brown's house. If anyone could find a way.
Yeah, I mean, he finds a way in the third movie to make ice cubes.
Correction.
Yeah, it's like this huge machine.
Yeah. But yeah, I also want to bring up the soundtrack for the movie, which was done by Huey Lewis of the News, which I think was perfect because, and I know people like to diss on Huey Lewis of the News, but when you think about it, they had the perfect sound for what that movie represented because they had a great mixture of modern era 80s pop music, but also that 50s kind of doo-wop vibe to it. And I think
essentially they were more rock and roll band than they were a rock band for sure, and they were huge at the time. There was no reason they had to do this movie because it wasn't considered bankable.
We're the pinheads.
Yeah. Every time someone says the word pinhead, my brain automatically adds in the feedback from a microphone afterwards.
They changed his girlfriend, didn't they? It's the same character, but it's a different actress.
Yeah, it was Elizabeth Shue, wasn't it? In
the first, but the second one, she's more famous. I think I know her.
I think it was because Elizabeth Shue couldn't come back though.
Why would she want to come back to one of the biggest, highest-grossing films of her career? You have
Again,
no
contractual obligations, isn't it? Because you got to remember,
it was
never ever intended to be more than one movie.
Elizabeth Shue was who they cast in the second one. Claudia
That's right,
Wells
yeah, I reversed it.
was the first one, and apparently, according to Wikipedia, she had to turn it down due to her mother's ill health. So it was just family issues that kept her from coming back.
Family ties, you could say, but I'm sorry.
I don't want to go that.
Yeah, she was in Karate Kid. She was awesome. She left Danielson after the second movie.
We'll talk about another actor. We'll talk about another actor that didn't want to come back for the second film, actually. But if there's anything else anybody wants to say about the first film, I mean, there's nothing. It's a phenomenal movie. I mean, there's nothing more I can say about how.
I just have to say, it rewards you. Sorry. Well, you couldn't. No, imagine that. If you had to, when they were talking about a remake, what would they use?
1979 Pontiac Firebird.
A Friero.
No, 1979 Pontiac Firebird.
CGI mess of a car. It wouldn't be actually based on a real car. And that's actually something we'll be talking about towards the end in terms of the ideas of remaking it, which we'll get more into that. But is there anything else anybody wants to mention before we go on?
I just want to say, unlike any other movie, I mean, other movies have it to a degree, but considering I watch this movie 3 times a week, it still has that. You're still pensive at the end. You know exactly how it's going to end, but it still makes you anxious in the final scene where Doc's scrambling up the clock face and trying to connect the leads. And Marty's looking at him when his car finally starts and he drives down the street. And it's just, it's no other movie still has that level of, you can go and watch it on any day it gets, because I'm sure it'll be re-released next year, because that'll be the 30th anniversary, won't it?
Yeah.
you can go into it and you're still nervous towards the end, thinking, oh, is he going to make it? Is he going to make it? Knowing full well that he does. How many movies can pull that off?
That is something I want to bring up too, is the ending and a lot of the fan theories and whatnot that people have gotten into with that movie, and some of the things that people like to point out, some of the anachronisms with how it ends, which you kind of push to the side because it's time travel we're dealing with. But basically, spoiler alert if you haven't seen it, but even though I'm sure most of you have, Marty McFly, he does his stuff in the past and comes back, and his entire future is 1985, at least his present, is completely changed. George is now a very successful writer, and he's rich and confident, and his mom is thinner and beautiful again, like she was back in the 50s, and Biff is now George McFly's manservant and whatnot.
Yeah, it's so funny. Oh, hi, Marty. It's so funny.
And it's one of those things that a lot of people have kind of picked apart some of the weirdness to it, and really some of the stuff that could only happen in an 80s era movie. Like, for instance, the whole Biff being George McFly's manservant. If you think about it, Biff should kind of be in jail at this point, because, I mean, essentially he tried to rape a woman in the 50s. Like, I don't know if I were that woman's boyfriend, if I would just keep him around as a manservant. I'd probably...
It's a good solid, right hook to anyone, fixes all of life's problems, and then all problems are erased and you immediately forget them.
Yeah.
So when you say that, is it something I would...
I'm just saying, like, I don't know if manservant would be as light as I would go in terms of that. Like,
rocks an 80 Adidas tracksuit, quite like old Biff.
That actor has always, he's one of those guys that when he pops up in movies, I kind of mark out for. Thomas Wilson is his name. I just popped it up.
The bloke in the Wing Commander FMV games.
Yeah, and he plays that character really well.
Going back to what you said, which is why would they keep him around? It's that bit when he, the iconic of something else I want to say, soft skateboards. It's easy, can be credited with bringing skateboards back into the mainstream. But that whole amazing skateboard scene, really. Yeah. And it's just like you're thinking, Biff, like you said, he was going to rape Lorraine. He's a bastard in this movie. He thinks it's acceptable that he's basically going to ram him into the back of a manure truck. What does he think's going to happen? He's either going to die or he's going to horrifically cripple him. It's like... Anyone, Biff? I mean, I know you're supposed to be the bad guy, but you're just a high school kid. Clearly, you've got serial killer written all over you.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm going to keep this guy around my wife or around me after what he did, he's a eunuch at that point.
Maybe it's just the utter humiliation aspect.
I don't know. It just seems like one of those. It feels like one of those Spielberg happy endings that, if you think about it, could only happen in one of his movies. But it's just something I always like to point out.
So one of the cheesiest, most iconic quotable lines that me and my mates have done for years, which goes, now Biff, I want 2 coats of wax. Just finishing up on the second one now, Mr. McFly. Now Biff, don't con me.
I've got a very important question.
Yeah.
There's a scene when Marty walks into, when he just basically comes to the 50s, like he's just gone to the future, back to the future, whatever, to the past, and he walks into the diner. And like the guy says, you're going to order something, and he says, I want a Pepsi free. So what's a Pepsi free? Is a Pepsi free sugar or Pepsi Light for free? What does he mean?
Pepsi free as in it was the original, diet version of Pepsi. Because before that he says, I want a tap, which was the original before Diet Coke,
So they quit Pepsi free back then?
Yeah. And it was, so he goes, I want a tap. You can't have a tap unless you order something. He goes, well, give me a Pepsi free. Hey kid, if you want a Pepsi, you'll have to pay for it. Just give me something without any sugar.
Yeah.
Which I always wondered, is he diabetic? Because he's fucked if he lives in the 50s as he is.
Yeah.
Well, we saw him drink Pepsi loads of times.
Yeah, that's right, because he can't get the top off because he thinks it's going to be a twist off, doesn't he?
It's so racist, the first film, if you think about it now.
Well, yeah, I was going to bring that up, the inherent racism that people have kind of pointed out with the movie, which I think is ridiculous, but it's always funny to talk about. The whole fact that they make a whole point about saying that the mayor was like the first black mayor ever, and it's only because of Marty McFly telling him he needs to run for mayor that he actually does.
But it's just, but that comes back to the whole, time element, which is, his dad quotes him at the end, which is, it's like I always said, if you put your mind to it, I don't think it annoys me when people jump on that aspect, because to me it's pointing out, the ironic differences between then and modern America in that it was, they were saying, look, it was racist, and this is what happened. When people say it was they're saying it was up to Marty and it wasn't for him, I just say, no, it's bollocks. He's pointing out, he's just taken his knowledge of, hang on a minute, what do you mean you can't be something? You could be mayor. It's an observation.
Yeah, they also point out the whole joke of Melvin Barry hearing him play Johnny B. Good and calling his cousin Chuck. It's like, that new sound you're looking for? Well, listen to this. No. That was The Simpsons. No,
there's that bit where Brian stands on stage, doesn't he? And he plays like 80s syntho pop, but he says when they go back to Peter's childhood, and he goes, before he introduces it, he goes, this is a song by a gay guy.
I was thinking of when The Simpsons, they did that 90s episode where it was Homer and Marge meeting each other in the early 90s. There's a scene where it's Homer playing with his grunge band, Sadgasm.
Yeah.
And there's a scene where one guy is like, Kurt, it's your cousin, Melvin Cobain. You know that mediocre sound you were looking for? Well, listen to this. And it's Homer's rendition of Glycerin that he renames Margarine. If you haven't heard it, folks, go online and listen to it. It's hilarious. But I don't see anything in that. Honestly, the one fan theory that I have thought of that's kind of funny is the whole thing about Marty basically looking like his past self and no one realizing that. Like, think about it. If I had a kid and it looked like a guy that my wife used to fawn over and chase after before me, that would send up some red flags.
I always put it down to the fact that it's 30 years later. There are no pictures they have of him to retain any sort of real memory. I think you would probably just go, like with the fact when they go like, Marty, that's a nice name, when they, like talking about kids or whatever. And I think it would just be, you might just say, hey, you kind of remind me of a kid who went to my high school. I can't see that people.
It's different because they've changed the future, innit? Because his future changed when he went back to the 50s. It completely changed because when he came back, there was a different family. So maybe all we know, they knew what happens because they're all different. They're rich and upper class.
Kid's an idiot. Comes from his parents. Comes from his upbringing. They're probably idiots too. Lorraine, if you ever have a kid like that, I'll disown you.
I guess. But that does bring up one last question that I want to get into before we get into 2, and that's the very end of it, where it basically ends on a cliffhanger. For those of you who haven't seen it, after he comes back from the past, he is picked up by Doc Brown, and Doc Brown basically says, "We've got to go back to the future, because it's your kids, Marty. We've got to save your kids." Oh yeah, the iconic line. I mean that's. Oh, you beat me to it. I was gonna bring up that Family Guy bit, where if you've ever seen it, it's where Doc Brown goes back and he's like, Marty, we've got to save your family. What's wrong? It's your daughter. She's dating a black man. It's like, I'm okay with that, Doc. It's like, oh yeah, me too. There's nothing wrong with it. I don't have any issues with it at all. You beat me to it, Burhan. But yeah, I do want to ask Dave a question because it was obvious from the start that they had a plan to do a sequel. I mean, that was always in the cards, but
it wasn't though. That's the official thing that Zemeckis says was it wasn't, because if they did plan to do a sequel, then he wouldn't have left it on that cliffhanger, because he said it made writing the sequel so difficult and almost the first bit of it irrelevant to set up the rest of the movie, because he goes, you can't base an entire movie around that, because then it would essentially be the first movie all over again.
Yeah, and we'll get into that when we talk about 2, but I wanted to basically lead up to a question is, with that in mind, that cliffhanger ending, let's say there was a situation where they didn't get 2 and 3, where, the movie didn't, basically the movie bombed, and Zemeckis wasn't able to go on to make part 2 and 3. If this had been the end to the franchise, would that cliffhanger ending have ruined it for you? Or do you think the movie...
It's not really a cliffhanger ending, it's just an ending you get in some films that have, like, they're going to continue. It's like it's like a superhero movie. You know, like say for example, Spider-Man film ends where Spider-Man's gonna go save someone, for example. It's just like a thing. It's like what they do. They're the heroes. That's what they do.
It's like
They
the
have
end
to.
of the first Freddy Krueger movie. I know that's a horror movie, but you know what I mean. It's just that's what you did in the 80s. That's how you ended up a movie.
Yeah, that's how you
Or
rolled up a film.
or a little bit more ostensibly the ending to Super Mario Brothers. You know, that kind of stinger-esque ending that really doesn't
Can you
really.
try not to make my ears bleed? Why'd you have to talk
Had to
about that
go
film?
and cheapen my birthday.
I'm sorry, but if we
You
had to go
ruined
with,
his birthday.
we're gonna be talking about 2 and 3. We've still got the rest of the show to talk about. You know, so.
Oh, that's my friend.
Oh, that's right. She was Howard Duck. That's right. Yes.
Good, good. I've been dying to have actual people listening to our live show. So hopefully this YouTube thing will pick up. You know, I don't know this YouTube thing. I don't know if it'll get off the ground. I don't know.
I don't see any money in it.
No, it's this Daily Motion thing. Yeah, that's where the money's really going to be at.
All the smart kids are going to Blogcast.
What money?
100% bulletproof. You know, never drops a beat whatsoever. This YouTube's just too flaky.
Yeah. But dovetailing off of the ending though, let's go into Back to the Future 2 because honestly, I'll say this about Back to the Future 2. I'm not a fan of the first act. The first act really falls flat to me. But once the movie kicks into the second act and especially into the third act, this movie really picks up for me.
But that was my point I was trying to make. The first act is like literally something they have to get out of the way so it connects to the cliffhanger ending in the first movie.
Well, even then, you know, it kind of has significance to the rest of the story in a way. So I'm beholden to it, but to me that first act is more along the lines of, hey, you know, let's play around with how weird the future looks. And even Zemeckis outright himself said he's not a big fan of that opening, at least that first act, because he didn't want to do he didn't like movies that showed what the future is going to look like because you're never 100% right with that, you know.
You
Although,
wait for time to bite you in the ass, is what you basically said, wasn't it?
mm-hmm. Although I will say this, he did have a lot of things right with some of the aspects he came up with. You know, stuff like the flat screen TVs that Marty McFly has, and you know, TVs that can show 6 channels at once. You know, ubiquitous cameras everywhere.
Fucking fax machine in the
Pizza.
closet.
The Pizza Hut. You put it in the microwave and you get Pizza Hut.
You rehydrated pizza. Yeah. Oh
That's
boy,
like
Mum,
radioactive
rehydrated
food right
pizza
there.
like you.
Yeah, I mean, it's not perfect. Oh, internet calling. You know, wireless two-way calling. You know, what we're doing basically right now was kind of shown in a way in Back to the Future 2. So,
Ooh, you know what else he technically got right? Which I'm sure people must have called out before this, but I've never thought about it before. Which is, you know, it's self scans at the supermarket. Technically predicted that because it was, you know, it was almost technically a self scan, i.e., you talked to a computer for, you know, ordering your drink in cafe, you know, 80s. If you remember, there was no one in there, so you got that right.
They didn't predict the Jaws 18 film. I'm still waiting for Jaws like 5. So
I was just about to say that. I was about to mention the Jaws 18 in 4D.
Yeah, but he did call true on the fact that CG, as good as it, you know, will ever get, it still looks fake. Shark
Yeah.
still looks fake.
Shark Jaws fake.
But I tell you what, he didn't get right, which annoys me. Where are my fucking hoverboards and flying cars?
I've got
Everyone.
hoverboards.
Excuse me, I'm still waiting for my self-lacing shoes.
No, that's been done. Technically, Puma did that with disc.
Really?
Yeah, look up Puma disc. You can't buy them anymore. They were defunct, and they're clearly based on this. But you basically there was a dial on the front, and you just saw the sides of the laces, and you twisted the dial, and it laced itself.
They just look like Converse.
Huh. Well, those are actually pretty neat. I'm looking at a picture of them.
I
I
tell
don't
you
know
what,
why.
they bought them back now, based on Back to the Future, even though it's not quite the same thing. They'd sell bucket loads. Puma, bring back Puma disc.
I think Reebok was the company they went with for the brand for the one in the movie. So Reebok, get on this. If you got to swipe the idea from Puma, do so. But yeah,
It
these
was
are
Nike though, wasn't it? Because they did. Michael J. Fox joined with Nike and they did this wonderful thing for charity where because there was a production company that would make them. They're called because they got nicknamed by fans Air McFlies.
Oh
And
yeah,
so
yeah, it was Nike. I thought it was Reebok.
production company made movie props, but they were like ridiculously expensive. So Michael J. Fox approached for like Parkinson's research and said, "Can you make a limited run of Air McFlies, and we'll auction them off for charity?" And I can remember that it was on the web a few years ago, and they were all ended up being bought by like really really famous people, but it was basically bid on them. And they went for insane money. So there's something like 5,000 Air McFlies out there.
Yeah, they made a limited edition of they're called Nike Mags.
You can buy those hats though. You know the hat that Marty Jr. wears because I've got one.
I'll be honest, it's been a couple of years since I've seen part two. It's like I said, I'm
The
not a
one where
big
he moves
fan
his
of.
head and it changes color in all directions.
Oh, okay. Let
Yeah.
me see if I can find a picture of it.
I don't wear it in public because people would laugh, and I can't even wear it in videos because when I put my light on directly in front of it, it just makes the camera spaz out.
Oh, I've seen that kind of hat. I've seen that kind of weird day glow kind of holographic material. Yeah, that's kind of neat. Yeah, that would be hard to film if you tried to take a picture of it. But yeah, like I said, I'm not a big fan of that first scene. I know it sets up a lot in the movie, like obviously the sports almanac and the setting up future Marty and how he's kind of an impulsive guy who
So
thinks.
predicted 80s retro when you think about it. We know that here's an interesting little item from the 80s. It actually has something we like to call a dust cover. If you're interested in that. But look how big 80s retro is now.
Yeah, I
I want
mean-
to get Biff's Sports Maniac when it's got the Playboy in it. I wonder what issue Playboy that was.
That was Ooh La La. That was not Playboy.
Oh yeah, ooh la la.
Ooh la
Does that
la!
exist?
Ooh la la!
Well,
Does
that's
ooh la la magazine exist?
no, I don't think so. But
Oh yes, it does.
oh, it does. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that can be something you could work on, Burhan. That could be your next.
Don't say it like
you know?
that. There you go. It's a copy of Ooh La La, Bird. Work on that.
Yeah.
Oh.
But yeah, like I said, I'm not a.
To mention though that people forget, which is little kid in the arcade. Back to the Future 2 is Elijah Wood, isn't he? In the Cappy 80s.
Really, I did not know that.
That's a baby. You mean you have to use your hands? That's a baby's toy. That's Elijah Wood, actually in real Hobbit size.
That guy's so creepy. After Maniac, I'm never watching
Use
a
that
film.
ratio from that movie on how to make him in the Hobbit. And the other bloke he's not a massive actor, but one of Biff's gang is Jason Scott Lee.
Ooh, nice.
Hey, McFly, you
Elijah
bozo!
Wood's creepy.
Don't work on water. He's that guy.
And this is the first of an issue that I've had with it is kind of the contrivance of everybody that Marty McFly runs into in his time period being a time period version of somebody in his time period. Like I can buy that they run into, young Biff and old Biff and whatnot in this version in 2015. As we get into with the past, it's going to start getting really contrived with me, but we'll get into that when we talk about Back to the Future 3. But like I said, I'm not a big fan of the
Griffin. What's the kid's the great grand or the kid of Biff is Griff, isn't he?
Yeah, it's Griff. He's got that weird helmety thing that makes him look like a trainable.
Isn't it weird that he's got a weird helmet that looks like the tread of a sneaker on the top? It's like he could break with his head. What makes me laugh about that though is if you base it in this point in this movie, based on how his dad's become so pussy whipped and everything, you get, it's like what fan service is said, but it makes you wonder why Griff is such a psychotic idiot. Not just because his dad was when he was young, but he's so angry at watching what his dad has become.
It does make a little more sense. And technically, Biff in the old Biff is more so like he is in. It's almost like they kind of retcon the fact that he is pussified because old Biff in part 2 is still kind of a bit of a jerk. Not to the level that he was in like the beginning of Back to the Future 1, but he's not the pussy whipped manservant that he was at the end of the first Back to the Future. So a little bit of character retconning happening in the movie that I could tell.
Well, yeah, but you got to remember at the end of the first movie, recreation in the second movie, Biff's world literally collapses, like understanding what's plausible or not when he said, a flying DeLorean. What the hell is going on? Because if you just saw a DeLorean, it burst into flames in the sky in front of you, I think it's safe to say you possibly might question a few things.
Yeah, but it's not gonna. He's still going to. They basically took away his balls at that point. By the way, folks, I'm half eating, so that's why it sounds like I've got something in my mouth. I'm sorry, but I think Dave was eating something as well.
No, I'm drinking.
Oh. Sorry.
In honor of Back to the Future, I'm drinking Pepsi. And I never drink Pepsi. Apart from
Pepsi free?
Max. Pepsi Max, but same
okay.
thing, I guess, technically.
I don't taste right.
No, it's Crystal Pepsi is what it is.
Do you remember Blueberry Pepsi? It was only in North America.
Pepsi Blue, yeah, that was a huge. That had a huge marketing campaign over here.
It was foul.
Oh yeah, it was terrible, but they marketed like crazy. Zach.
What the fuck?
Really?
Why would you say that? You must be bored, Michael. And to say that out on the show like that, I'll take it as a compliment, of course.
You're just jealous, Zach, of the fact that you're the sexiest man and the star of the show.
No, I'm young. I'm 17. I've got muscles. I've got everything. Everything going for me. Everything.
You haven't got a fucking DeLorean.
Yes, I have. I've got one day I'll own a 1979 Pontiac Firebird and do whatever I want.
Listen, just give me a police box and we'll be good.
Oh no, not Doctor Who.
That's something we missed though. By the way, talking about the first movie, it's funny you say that because originally they wanted the time machine to be a fridge.
Really?
Yeah, but they had to drop the idea because they thought it's not marketable to movie companies because obviously even back then, to make it sound like it's prehistoric times, it was kids got trapped in freezers and fridges playing hide and seek, didn't they? Like abandoned ones. But yeah, it's supposed to originally be a fridge. A refrigerator, and it does beg the question, which makes me wonder if that infamous scene in Crystal Skull, because obviously Spielberg was involved in Back to the Future as well, is a little bit of a nod to that.
I always wondered how he was able to get the fridge open in that, because, like I said, there was no way to open those fridges up once you closed them. So how was he able to get out of that fridge?
I think it's probably safe to say the atomic bomb probably loosened the hinges.
Probably.
But no, look it up. It was originally going to be a fridge, and then they thought we'd never sell this to a movie company because it's a kids' movie. And they said no because it would just make impressionable kids climb into their parents' fridge thinking they could go back in time and then suffocate.
No, I used to do that all the time. But I used to do that all the time. But when my parents would open it up, I'd be like, Zool. Ghostbusters reference.
So how come Indy's fridge wouldn't open, but yours did? Did you say you could climb into your fridge and save your parents' marriage?
My dog's actually called Zool.
Is he?
Yeah. Well, no, it's a girl, but she's called Zool. Chow Chow. It's true.
But yeah, like I said with Back to the Future, the second one, the first act kind of falls apart for me, but once you get into the second act, the movie really picks up because basically this is where we talk.
I went all day glow, by the way. Again, I got a book I got the official book that was released when Back to the Future 3 came out that covers the other two movies as well. And do you know why he went? One thing he did say where he went kind of day glow shiny vision of the future was he said the one thing he wanted to do that mainly because of Blade Runner and other movies at the time was he thought I don't want to see a depressing version of the future. If it's going to be a future, I want it to be shiny and happy.
It's funny they go that route because now if you compare 2015 today to back then, it's actually, I wouldn't say it's not happy, but we're living in more the Apple white kind of sanitized version of technology. as opposed to like the day-glow bright, very 80s-esque version that they showed in the movie. Like,
We're in Orson Welles technology land.
kinda, or like THX 113 almost.
Well, it depends where you go, because if you go to the town, like all over the world, you get different towns. So if we go to the town what was in Hot Fuzz, their town was like peaceful and all like, you know, happy. So the town in Back to the Future 2 is like the town in Hot Fuzz, and you'll find a town like that. No,
Oh, it is.
country
It's a
town.
rural. Is Hill Valley a rural town?
I'm not sure. Let me check. Let me check if Hill Valley is based on anything.
Hill Valley, California.
Oh yeah, Hill Valley, California. Yeah.
It's awesome.
Oh no,
And you've
it's
got
Hill
you-
Valley, California is a fictional medium-sized town in Northern California.
But
So
they're showing you a man with a life preserver walking about.
yeah,
I mean,
it's not a real actual town. It's got elements from other towns in it, but
don't give me that. It's a real town to me.
it's like Sherman, Illinois.
It's the back set, isn't it? It's the back lot at Universal, isn't it?
Yep. Huh. Interesting. So I
Can I
guess
ask a random question, like really important though? How old is Marty McFly? Because he says that his driver's license expires in '86. So
17.
if he was
Yeah.
17, how can the driver's license expire like a year later? That's 2 years. That's ridiculous. It should be like
It is
every
like Canada though. When you get your first one, it's not like it's not a provisional license where you have to have someone in the car with you. But they got really in some parts of Canada they got really restricted driving licenses with really restricted conditions. So I don't know. Maybe his first given driver's license would Also, can't you drive at some parts of America at 15?
it depends. I don't know how the driving laws were back then. I mean, they could be different. Who knows? But folks, if
Kids
you're
were
out
more
there in the
mature back then.
if you're out there in the
Yeah.
chat and you want to type in something that isn't trollish, go ahead, look that up for us. Look up 1985 driving laws, and Burhan will give you a shout out.
But why would you need a driving license in 1985? I think she's talking about Blue Pepsi.
Yeah, I would imagine it's about Pepsi Blue. Yeah, which, like I said, is a terrible drink.
You wouldn't need a driving license in 985. You just need a skateboard in that town because everything's built at right angles. So you just come straight out of one parking lot onto a road, grab the back of a car, go around the next corner onto another parking lot, out the other side, past a Burger King, and back onto a road. Why would you want? He's the ultimate green traveler back then.
Agreed. Very much agreed. But yeah, like I said, going on to the second act for Back to the Future 2, this is where the movie, in my opinion, really picks up, because this is where they go back in time, and apparently Biff has stolen the gray sports almanac from the future and brought it to the past, which has led to this now alternate reality 1985. And it's the first time they actually talk about the idea of the split timeline, where it's not so much that they change the past, but they've created this split alternate reality where we've now got two 1985s.
They're bordering on talking about the multiverse, really.
Yeah. Which, if you think about it, means that there's still a 1985 with Marty McFly's old life. Like, there's still a 1985 where his dad's still, being abused by Biff, and his mom's fat, and their marriage is not going too well. Like, it kind of makes you wonder where the Marty McFly of Marty's new timeline is, if they're going about it by that regard. It's something you got to think about.
He's in prison, isn't he, at that point? He's at Youth Reoffenders Camp.
But she had boobs.
No. The original 1985 timeline is based on the original 1955 timeline, so it would be based off of George and Lorraine meeting at different circumstances, not to the circumstances that they had when Marty interfered.
He kills George, doesn't he? But when you say he'd be in prison, Mike, he wouldn't, because he's been milking betting for so long at this point. And he's got corporations. He's, the richest bloke in America. What do the rich get that other people don't? They get to bend justice.
Yeah, he basically owns his own company, Biffco, and basically the new 1985 is now it's almost like a crime corrupted Vegas almost. It's just seedy and dirty, and this is where the movie really starts to pick up, and you can see Zemeckis
It
really
hasn't
having fun
changed.
again. What?
Or it hasn't changed.
Or this is technically the better, even though it's the past
That's
or
what
whatever.
Las
It's a
Vegas
better
is.
prediction of the future, really, if you think about it.
Yeah.
Crime-ridden, crime-addled, and falling apart.
Yeah, everything being run by one big
It's got that
corporation.
horrific scene though
Like
when
in The
that
Hangover.
yeah, when they go into Biff's got his museum, and we mentioned this in a previous show that it's on YouTube. It's not just on the special features, and you can see it. But you know that little documentary that's running about Biff when you go into the museum or at the bottom of his casino,
Yeah.
and it shows the history of Biff. There's that horrific scene where you see a bit of it. He talks about it in so and so he married his sweetheart girlfriend, Lorraine, and then he just forces a foot and a half of his tongue into her mouth on camera. It's horrific. And
Yeah,
that documentary's on YouTube, and it's actually it's done like a little mockumentary, but it explains how his miraculous winning streak continued.
Yeah. Really? Like I said, I like it because you could tell this is where Robert Zemeckis really wanted to have fun with it, because it really is where the movie really starts to pick up in its overarching story, because it's at this point that you realize that now the plot really is kicked into high gear. Now we realize that he's got to go back and now fix this issue, and
Yeah, it also basically points out which is don't dick with time because the effects are catastrophic.
which is a problem I have with when we get into 3, but I'll get into that when I get into it.
Most quotable line in this part of the movie though is "Eat lead, slackers." I just got to put that out there.
I do. It is funny how they talk about how Doc Brown is committed to an insane asylum in this universe.
That's right. Yeah.
But yeah, that whole scene before he gets picked up by Doc Brown and they go back to the past where Biff has him held up with a gun. That's probably one of my more memorable scenes from that movie, when he's got him held up and he's like, you can't shoot me, you'll go to jail, and it's like, they'll never find out that I killed you. They didn't find out who I killed with this gun before, and then you find out that he actually did that, and it's like, wow, that got pretty dark for a second.
Ooh, and it also comes back to what I just said, which is when he goes, "I call the police, kid. I own the police."
Yeah, I mean, it's like I said, this is where the movie really picks up for me, and I really enjoyed this act in the movie.
I love the
Reminds me of
fact that it's
Walking
still got
Tall.
that reference where he falls for it. It goes, "Well, Biff, what's that?"
Yeah, that's a great callback. But then we go into the third act, which I think is one of my favorites, which is where they basically reenact scenes from the first movie. Which this is where we get into one of the other big casting changes. We talked about Marty McFly's girlfriend being recast. They recast Crispin Glover for this part. Apparently, Crispin Glover and the studio Universal could not come to terms money-wise.
He wanted a stupid amount of money, didn't he?
He says that now. You're referring to the Opie and Anthony interview he did in 2013. He did an interview in '92 with the Howard Stern show where he talked about that the studio offered him $125,000 to come back, and apparently he wanted double that. So that's why he decided not to come back for the second movie. Which, like I said, I don't know what to go with. Do you go with his?
I'm gonna side with the studio and not Crispin on this, based on the fact that he almost karate kicked what's his name? Talk show host bloke. I forget his name. Not Jay Leno, the other guy. Yeah, he almost kicked him in the face on live TV and got evicted during the interview from his cast member. What? Have you not seen this?
No.
Look it up. No, he doesn't kick him in the face. He doesn't go to kick him in. He does it like a karate kick in front of his face, but it comes so close. You can see on Letterman's face that he's really, really shook up. And it's after him being off the charts, crazy in the interview. And it literally cuts back to it, and he's gone. And you can see Letterman make a really, really, stupid excuse. But you watch it, you see what I mean? He sits there pulling little notes out of his pocket and really, really weird off the chart stuff. And then he stands up and then he does this kick in front of Letterman. And then he realizes that he almost hit him. And you can see the Crispin Glover goes, oh. Then he just goes, we're going to cut to commercial. And he goes like, and then it comes back and he's gone.
Yeah, this was during Crispin Glover's kind of weird phase. So,
He really struggled, didn't he?
Hormones, menopause, whatever you want to call it.
I will say though, we mentioned Gotham before. If they wanted to cast Crispin Glover in that Penguin role, I think he probably would have done great with it.
Oh my God, yes. Crispin Glover for any bad guy in the next reinvention of Batman in the cinema if it's dark.
Yeah, wasn't he up for the Joker role at one point back when
I don't doubt for a second he could have done it because he's batshit crazy.
Yeah.
But no one can replace Heath. Not even Jack Nicholson could replace Heath.
Jack Nicholson's still my favorite Joker, I'm just saying.
Well, who knows?
Yeah, but
we'll see when Batman vs Superman comes out what direction.
Crispin Glover, if you're listening to this, I take back anything nasty or negative I said about you. Don't haunt my dreams or kill me.
I don't even know who he is. I've got to Google him. Glover is like spelled like a glove, you know?
Yeah.
What's he done recently?
Crispin Glover? Let me see if I can find
Charlie's Angels.
Oh yeah, he was in. I think he was in Charlie's Angels. I think I remember seeing him in there.
Alice in Wonderland.
Let's see.
Killed his career.
What is life?
He was in Hot Tub Time Machine. I remember that.
Friday the 13th, the final chapter.
Yeah.
Hence the fact that he did Hot Tub Time Machine. Look up his music video, by the way. Yeah, that's what he was doing on Letterman when he went mental. But no, look up his music video. He's got a music video, which music video is probably, or music is too strong a descriptive term for what it is, but it's surreal and trippy as fuck.
His Wikipedia page photo looks like Harvey Dent. It does.
It does. I could see what he's saying with that. Yeah, there's like he's got a page where like half his face is like glowing in a different color. I know which photo you're talking about. Yeah, I could see it.
That's his creative craziness escaping through that side of his face's pores.
Yeah, his role that I remember the most recently is his role in Willard, because he was just creepy. Even in the trailers, he was just off-putting.
He played Willy Wonka in Epic Movie.
Oh, he played Willy Wonka in the all right.
Could I?
Yeah, let's move on from that, because we've got part 3. We've got the third act to talk about, which, like I said, I love because it's basically a reimagining of the first movie shot in a different sort of scene, because now you're going at it from the angle of new Michael J. Fox kind of trying to stop, trying to get the almanac back without disrupting any of the elements to the first movie. So it's really unique to see. Yes.
Yeah, back to back.
Yeah, because part 2 opens up with a trailer for part 3. That's one of the first instances of a major studio doing that I could think of, at least until Matrix 2 and 3 did it, of filming two movies back to back. I
think they said it just made more sense, though, didn't they?
They did that for the video game as well. The Sega Master System game was 2 for the price of 1.
They're terrible with those games.
They're brilliant. Brilliant. Have you had the NES music to to Back to the Future, Power of Love. It is the Power of Love music, but just sped up really quickly.
Yeah,
In
I was actually going to bring that up
really,
at one
really
point.
small loop.
But well, no, if you've ever listened to it, it is actually the bass line to Power of Love. What happened was, they programmed the bass line because they thought they got the rights, and then Huey Lewis and the News pulled the rights back, so they couldn't use it. But in America, I don't know how copyright law works over in the UK, but in America, you can kind of go past copyright law if you tweak the song so much that it's unrecognizable. So that's why they sped it up to like 5 times faster so
Well,
that they can get it out there.
I'm
But
not suggesting anyone should do this, but people get whole episodes of Top Gear, UK and US and Australia, onto YouTube by speeding
Flipping
it
it.
up or slowing it down ever so
Or flipping
slightly.
it.
Yeah, so it
Mirror
doesn't
view.
get picked up for some reason, because and it's weird to watch it because it's technically fast enough to watch, appreciate, and enjoy, particularly for a car show. But at the same time, you can't put your finger on it, which is something ever so wrong about everyone's voice in this. I mean, why does Tanner sound like he's now actually been for puberty?
uh,
One thing I would like to say quickly, though, going back to the bit when he's trying to avoid himself most predominantly, in the watching himself play Johnny Be Good, and also in the start of the movie, when it's him playing multiple characters around the same dinner table, because it's in that book I got, and it explains how it's done, and that was then absolutely groundbreaking new technology to do proper multiple actor, same screen, without doing old school dodgy split screen like they used to do in movies, and yeah, it was absolutely state of the art. It was the first real effects, kind of shake up.
well, I would think that back then you would basically just have to film each scene congruently and then kind of just overlay the
Well, it was the
negatives.
system, but it wasn't. It was the first time it was done properly, fully computerized. And I'll scan a picture and send it to you later. No, not during this, obviously. And they explain how it's done, but it's really, really complex. And they said it's nothing like was ever done before. It might just be a way of basically the special effects company doing what they used to do before, but finding a way to charge more money. But apparently, it was super, super complex. And I mean, I still think it looks really good. Still, you can see a little bit grainy color, but it's still, compared to some of the stuff today, looks absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, I think it was Industrial Light and Magic that was working with them to do the special effects. So yeah, it was Industrial Light and Magic. So it was probably, back then those guys were like at the peak of special effects. So I can imagine that they probably had some like new way of doing that. But yeah, I really had a lot of fun with the third act, especially the scene where Biff is chasing after Marty and they recreate the manure scene again.
Yeah.
I mean that the whole movie is just I like the whole callback nature of the third act, you know. And this is the only problem I have is this is the one that suffers I think more from the cliffhanger ending more than one. Basically, at the end of this movie, they get the almanac, they get rid of it, everything readjusts itself, and then the DeLorean gets hit by a random lightning bolt and gets sent to the past. And then right as soon as that happens, you see this car pull up with like a delivery man basically saying that we've had this package for several decades now, well centuries now, and it was a message to be left here at this exact same moment at this exact same spot, and it was essentially a letter telling from Doc Brown telling Marty, "Hey, everything's fine. I'm in 1885. I'm okay. I've left you the DeLorean buried, underground. Once you get it, you can go back home."
I hated it at the time, but as someone who likes time travel theories and stuff like that now, I really enjoy it. But at the time, I know what you mean. It was like a really sort of sudden kind of, wait, what? Oh, oh, that makes sense then, because that's that bit in the original movie which I thought was pointing out to the fact that Biff was just breaking the law. But he goes, I wonder who's going to pay for this. I spilled beer all over myself when I crashed your car.
Unfortunately, he refuses to do the voice anymore. I don't know what to say about that because we need you, Burhan. You're my Marty McFly to my Doc Brown, basically. Yeah, and that's the big problem that I have going into part three, which I guess we might as well go into. My biggest problem with part three is obviously the premise. The first off, it's the premise. I don't like this whole idea of at least in two, it was contrived, but they kind of left it at that, where it's like, oh, we're kind of going back in time now to fix your kids' problems, even though that's really is a selfish reason for using time travel. I mean, you know, yeah, I mean,
Yeah, it was a necessity when he was stuck in the past in the first movie because that was an accident or whatever. But you could argue what happened to his kids in the second movie was just the natural process of time. So what gives him the right to change it?
yeah, I mean, it doesn't make much sense. And in this one, it is basically you're going back in time for your own selfish needs. You're not going back there. Like I know it's to save him from being shot by Biff, but dude, it's 18. It happens in 1885. It's like he would have been dead regardless. So just let it go. Like leave it at that. Go back to 1985. Go back to your new life and enjoy yourself. You don't have to go. You don't have to do this. But I guess we wouldn't have a third movie if that was the case. So why
And
not?
we've had many arguments about this on the Retro on Limb live stream, which is I prefer 3 to 2 now, believe it or not.
I don't. My big problem with three, besides obviously the initial premise, is this is very much a Doc Brown movie, and as much as I like Christopher Lloyd and the character he plays, I I have no interest in seeing a movie specifically about him. I mean, Marty kind of plays a bit player to him. I mean, I know there's that whole thing about him going after Biff's great 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 grandfather, which is another contrivance that I hinted at before, but it just to me it's the focus is on the wrong character. I mean, I have no desire to see a movie about Doc Brown finding a love interest.
See,
Just
that's why I kind of liked it. It was like, yay! It turns out they fleshed Doc Brown out a little bit more. It turns out he's not this crazy wacko bloke who hangs out with teenagers all the time. He's just a lovelorn man who hasn't met the right woman yet.
Just reminds me of Frankenstein. At the end of the day, it's not going to work.
Just a shame he fell in love with Ted Danson's wife.
yeah.
I wish they would have focused more on uh, Marty's relationship because I really liked it when he had in the beginning of the first film with his girlfriend. I love all that when it's all the 80s high school and they got boyfriend girl. I just fucking love that.
Yeah, they
So
pretty much dropped that by the second film. I mean, they don't once he leaves his girlfriend and dog in 1985, that they pretty much disappear at that point.
mm.
I don't know. Like I said, I just
Erased from existence.
there's too much contrivance in this movie. The whole of them finding Biff's that it happened to be that Biff's great 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 grandfather happened to be the one to kill Doc Brown. Just to me feels contrived. Like I said, it just
Yeah, but then doesn't that come back to the fact that it's almost preordained that Marty would have gone back because essentially he kills him because of he saves Marty, doesn't he?
who?
Once he goes back, Mad Dog Tannen. That's right, yeah. And then when they send him back, he puts him in his little Roy Rogers cowboy costume. That was something they could have done more of. That was the one bit That's why I love that movie. But that was something that definitely could have used more. Was just 80s kid playing up cowboy movies.
Yeah, I mean it's
Eastwood,
just
what kind of stupid name is that?
it's kind of like the whole Calvin Klein bit from from the first movie.
Hmm.
Like I said, though, to me it doesn't have any of the magic or the weird introspectiveness of 2 or 1. It just, like I said, it just, to me, it just doesn't live up to the first 2 movies. I can't say that it's a bad movie. I've seen it once, and I really don't have much of an intention to go back to it.
I'm watching it immediately after this live stream. No, seriously, I am. But then you've also got to remember they've penned themselves into a corner because even though it's time travel, and you could argue with time travel, you know you've got the world at your feet, but story-wise or potential. But then also it could be a hindrance, which is why you've done the future, you've done the past. Where'd you go? Oh, either more future or more past.
Yeah. And I had forgotten about how this movie ends too, and I actually hate it. I actually don't like it more so because of that. Because I initially thought that the movie ended with him just destroying the DeLorean, where he pops up on the tracks with the DeLorean in 1985. A freight train hits it, destroys it, which would have destroyed the train too. So Marty just created mass murder, but we won't go into that. But basically, the idea of, all right, it's broken, it's done, no more time travel. Doc Brown's in the past. He's happy. He's got his new wife. We're done. And then the locomotive with the flux capacitor pops up at the end, and it's Doc and Clara and their 2 children, and then it's basically Doc going that basically Doc. It becomes like from what I'm reading, because I barely remember it. The train turns into an aerial craft and flies
Yeah.
away.
I think you were right with it should have ended on the time machine being destroyed, but I understand why they did that, and it's cheesy. I kind of like it, but I mean, you could argue that all the movies are ridiculous, but yeah, it's the fact that I like the fact that it kind of leaves the little invention bug never left him, even though he was married and he was finally happy, so he still tinkered away, but he's got a steam powered time machine, and not just a time machine, but a flying freaking train.
I think to me to me that just it would have been so much more poignant had they just left it at, now it's done. It's destroyed. He's in the past. He's happy. Let's leave it at that.
He saved his hand. You know, he's got over the calling him chicken thing and doesn't have the automobile accident. Then cut it there.
Yeah.
Who wants to hear it? I got a good Easter egg about Back to the Future 3. You probably want that. You know when Marty gets his cowboy outfit on,
Yeah.
and he's gonna go back to the Wild West, and you know they call him Clint Eastwood, don't they, in the film?
It's a poster on the wall.
There's a poster of Revenge of the Creature, the first film what Clint Eastwood was in. I thought that's amazing. I can't believe it. There has to be a connection with that.
No, that's why they did it. Yeah. That comes back to me talking about the cowboy bit could have been played out a little bit more. White ass 80s
It should have been called Blondie, not Clint Eastwood. My name's Blondie. His father's a pussy compared to like Marty. Marty's like the man of the house, literally. Marty is not scared to fight back.
But that was.
Wait, what?
But
What's that?
Rise of the Creature.
Well, that's his first film. I mean, what kind of film is that anyway? It's a horror film.
What was the TV show? What was the TV show we did before that made him famous as a cowboy? There's a brilliant parody of that.
Well, if you look at his good films, like Good, Bad, and the Ugly, and all that, is he literally having a lot of dialogue? No, he's just talking to that accent.
That's a director who knows what he's doing.
He lets the gun do the talking, you know. It's fucking Clint Eastwood.
He invented 5 o'clock shadow. Can I just say, on the subject of Easter eggs, though, I know we talked about it before, but it's still one of the greatest ones that I never picked up until a couple of years ago, which is the bit in the original movie where he drives out the barn and he drives through the old man Peabody's pine, and then he goes, "My pine, why, my pine?" Because obviously Doc says, Twin Pine Moles. He goes, "Oh, I can remember as far as this was farmland. Crazy old man Peabody. Stupid dream about breeding pine trees." And because Marty drove through one of his pines, when he goes back to the end, and I can't believe I missed it. Well, in my defence, I was 9. The mall's name's been changed to Single Pine Mall.
Huh.
That's got to be the greatest Easter egg of all time.
It wouldn't surprise me that would be in there. It's Robert Zemeckis seems like a director who would have stuff like little Easter eggs like that, little callbacks. I mean, it shows that the guy really cares about the universe that he's created. I will say though, I am surprised that we did. This is going to be a horrible joke, but I'm surprised that we didn't see Seth MacFarlane crawling around there, popping up on Doc Brown and Marty when they were trying to build the locomotive. No,
I think I'm too young to understand that joke.
Bit in that movie.
Yeah, Zach, if you don't know, the most recent Seth MacFarlane film, A Million Ways to Die in the West, there's a scene where Seth MacFarlane, in his Western character, is stumbling around drunk. He goes into a barn and he sees Christopher Lloyd as Doc Brown working on the DeLorean, and then he pulls over a sheet over and goes, "Oh, it's actually a weather machine," and then he stumbles out again. Yeah, they did a callback to it in that movie, and I was referencing it. It's a terrible movie. Don't bother watching it.
That's literally just.
I
look that bit
know.
up
What did I?
YouTube.
Don't you remember when I was on the show and I predicted that it will be another? Because it's a Western film, it's going to be another flop. Like most 21st century Western films, it's even written on Wikipedia. There is a page on Wikipedia that says that. I predicted it. Most Western films made in the 21st century are flops and bad thingy.
No, True Grit.
The one,
You should
Not
watch
really.
Johnny
the
Depp.
movie poster.
Not
the only
really.
good one that's made money was
I think-
Django. That's the only one that was successful. But
dude.
Wild to the
310 to Yuma made money. True Grit made money.
no. There is
Don't
true.
bother watching
That's
it.
literally
I'll get the
just-
page.
No,
What did I?
no.
Don't you remember when I was?
All right, buddy. But yeah, in terms of Back to the Future 3, like I said, it's not my favorite. I don't think it's a bad movie. It just doesn't hold my attention as well.
Hey, like I said, they penned themselves into a corner to some degree. I love it, but they did pen themselves into a corner.
And that was pretty much it for the franchise. I mean, after that, we saw the video games obviously flesh out from the.
Oh, don't forget the segments they shot for the now sadly, but not because it wasn't popular, because they wore out the mechanics and couldn't replace it. The Back to the Future ride.
Oh yeah, I remember when I first went onto that in like '96. That was a huge thing for me. I loved that.
You got to
ride.
watch, didn't you? And it's on the special features, but they shot whole new segments, mainly with Christopher Lloyd, that were on the TV screens
Yeah.
when you were lining up for it.
I remember. It makes me sad that they got rid of it at some point.
Yeah, like you said, it literally was. They said it's not because it wasn't popular, because I never got to go on it. My parents got to go on it, and they even took a picture of the DeLorean when they queued up for 3 hours to get on there to send to me when well, I wasn't a kid, I was like a teenager at this point, and they were on holiday in the States, and I was at home. And they took a picture. I didn't get to see it until they came back because we're talking old school.
Well, I will say this. It's still available at Universal Studios Japan.
Well, yeah, that's because the Japanese can find a workaround for anything, can't they?
Yeah.
Theirs is digital.
So if you, yeah, so if you want to ride it, you've still got your opportunity. But yeah, it's
the one in the States was literally, they said it was, even though it was a popular ride and Disneyland, and this is a big statement to say, unless it was just they couldn't be asked and wanted to put something else there, but they said the cost of refurbishing or repairing this or even replacing this machine with the technology that is no longer available, which means they had to basically recreate it, they said it's not in the financial interest of the park.
Yeah, it would be cheaper for them to literally build a new attraction than it would be to fix the old one. Which, yeah, is the case when you've got technology that old. I mean, because this thing is like it opened in '93. No, '91. The one in Florida is the oldest one, and it was went on from 1991 to 2007, which is actually a big deal.
And I think it's still, well, yeah, for it's like tech like that, I think it's still their most popular ride.
Yeah.
Even
Yeah.
defunct, like, stat wise, it was people literally. I remember, like, people from this country, and it was on the news. Right, it's some of the news go, a new ride has opened at, this theme park, but people were literally booking, holidays to that part of the state simply so they could go to, Universal and go on the ride. More
Yeah, that
so than anything else.
I'm looking at like the Universal Studios, like the previous rides there, and yeah, that was a big deal when they got rid of that. Because all the other rides they've gotten rid of over time have kind of worn out their welcome. But yeah, between that and when they got rid of Jaws, those were the two big mainstays of that
Yeah,
park.
Jaws was the same reason. Well, not exactly the same reason because the tech was, well, kind of then. The tech was it was unmanageable to fix it, and that was a huge ride as well.
Yeah,
And the shark actually looked more realistic in that than it did in the actual movies. But yeah, and they scratched for the same reason, which was it's not because we haven't listened to people wanting it to still be about. It's just because the cost of overhauling this, fixing it, with defunct parts, it's ridiculous.
yeah, that's unfortunate. But from what they replaced it with like the Simpsons ride, I think. I haven't seen it, but who knows? We'd have to
And
check
then you got
it
Bates
out.
Hotel. I know it's not Back to the Future related, but it's kind of funny that for a while, and I found pictures of it online where because obviously the original set for the Bates Hotel from the Psycho movies was it Universal, and they had nowhere else to put or store all the crap from the parks that they weren't using, so they dumped it all in front of the driveway garden entrance to what used to be what you could go and look at, the Bates Motel. And so it's really funny to look at this thing that was in the Psycho movies and then see just like random parts of the park that aren't being used being stored in it, and it's cordoned off from the public.
That is kind of cool, the whole concept of like the park graveyard where it's just got remnants of their old
Ironically, at Bates Motel.
yeah.
And you can still see the mannequin in some of the pictures that was his deceased mum's corpse in the top upstairs window.
I haven't been to Universal in a while. I went to Islands of Adventure just to a buddy of mine wanted to see the Harry Potter opening, so we went to the Islands of Adventure when that place opened up. But other than that, I haven't really seen Universal Studios in a while. So,
I've never been, and I would love to.
well, like I said, hit up the one from Japan if you really want to try out the.
And I can buy some secondhand pre-used Mega Drive games. Cool. Cool.
Funny Kong games.
Well, there's not much else. There's not much else we can say about the franchise from here on in. I mean, they had that short-lived
I was going
cartoon.
to say there's the cartoon, but
I only ever saw one episode from the cartoon series. It was just your standard.
oh, it had live action segments shot with Christopher Lloyd though, didn't it?
Did it? I don't remember.
Yeah, in the intro. Yeah. Yeah, like G.I. Joe. Now remember, kids, terrorist organizations are bad and will ultimately end the world, but make sure you don't stick a fork in a power socket,
Yeah,
ISIS.
because knowledge is half the battle.
yeah.
Ted was brilliant. Patty, come on, give me that one. Ted was brilliant.
Well, it was brilliant film, but it was a little bit family cheap.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was talking about the American president, Roosevelt. Sorry.
Barack Obama.
It's going back to the cartoon series. It's funny. The only two characters that came back to voice their main characters were Christopher Lloyd and Thomas Wilson as Doc Brown and Biff, respectively.
We talking about Food Fight?
No, we're talking about the Back to the Future cartoon series, the short-lived
Oh, okay.
cartoon series from let's
Is it
see.
running concurrently or not with, just out of boring me being a nerd, the Bill and Ted cartoon?
I don't remember.
The only reason I say that is because when Mike said it was kind of, based on, there was an educational stance, there was a little bit of an educational stance in the Bill and Ted cartoon, wasn't there? Now remember, kids, if you do own a car called Bumblebee that can turn into a robot, just make sure you're not sat in it when he does.
No, Bill and Ted's...
Yes.
Actually, the Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventures cartoon series predates the Back to the Future series, because it's Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventures was 1990. The Back to the Future cartoon series was 1991.
Aren't some of the voices in the did Alex Winter and Keanu Reeves do the voices in the original series of that cartoon?
Yes, in the first season, Keanu Reeves, Alex Winter, and George Carlin did do their own voices for this.
Keanu Reeves, I would like to thank you for my haircut.
Yeah, because I think it was Hanna-Barbera that was footing the bill, and they had just been picked up by Turner. So I think that Ted Turner money probably looked really good.
Hanna-Barbera don't have money. Their budget is like curtains.
Pre-Turner, yeah, but post-Turner, when Ted Turner bought them up, yeah, they got a budget. Trust me.
Yeah, well, probably.
Is everybody else there, Dave?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay,
it's probably my sketchy internet. It keeps going pop, pop. I can hear it.
I stopped hearing I stopped hearing the hissing of your microphone, and I was like, Dave? Did we lose Dave again?
It's England. My internet's at least 15 years behind yours. Mike's is good because he lived in London. I live in Bristol. Literally, there's a boiler downstairs running on coal and donkey piss that keeps my internet going.
It's runs on coal and it's a crank box.
Yeah.
I thought they shut down all the mines.
No, I just don't tell them they exist. That way the unions stay off my back. Yeah. I told you, Mike, they all have visas and everything, all right? And they're all from Europe. So shut up. Sorry? Thanks. Love you.
So you're saying that the show did have live action segments?
Yeah, little bits with
Oh,
yeah. Something like Doc Brown says something like, dinosaurs ruled the earth many years ago when I was frozen today. And then it would segue into the...
No, it's funny you mention that because I'm actually reading up on the wiki page. I'm like, yeah, it does say that. And do you know who got his start because of that? Bill Nye. He was a sidekick to Doc Brown during those live action segments, and his success led to Disney picking him up and doing his famous series. So, the Back to the Future TV series Bill Nye owes his career to that.
Is it on? Can you buy it on? Because I would just as a Back to the Future whore. Is there a DVD release of it?
All right, let me check.
I know the Bill and Ted one only got like one of those stupid best ofs and not like a sequential box set.
Let's see. Although the show is no longer available on television, 9 VHS cassettes and 3 volumes of the series on Laserdisc were released between 93 and 94, chronicling 18 of the 26 episodes. Back to the Future, the cartoon series has yet to be released on Blu-ray or DVD.
I see. Now that's another reason that I have to finally buy a fucking Laserdisc player.
Your best bet, honestly, is to find a convention and see if you could find a DVD table, because there's I'm almost bootleg. Yeah, I'm almost positive I've seen copies of this on bootleg tables at conventions. Great fans going out and putting these stuff out there for people like us who cannot get a hold of it.
Last time I did that, I ended up buying a DVD that disappointed my dreams so much that I couldn't even give it to a charity shop because they wouldn't accept it. And you know what that bootleg fan DVD was? And the production was really good on it. It was the Star Wars Holiday Special.
Yeah, but who yeah, this must have been pre-YouTube.
It was. This is 2000 or something when I literally read about, I know it's not about that, but I'd just say since we talked about bootleg fan tables, I remember reading about it on Tinterwebs and going, wait, there's a holiday special? Then I read the infamous line by George Lucas that said, if I had all the time in the world, I would buy a hammer and I would fly the globe, destroying every bootleg VHS copy they existed. And then all of a sudden, when DVD age came around and people got DVD recorders and, you know, decent home printers, people started making, like, they looked like proper, you know, Star Wars, you know, products, and that you can buy it. Well, I got rid of mine. Well, I didn't. I threw it away because the charity shop said, we can't take this. It's a bootleg. It would be illegal for us to sell it. I said, no, it's technically illegal for me to buy it. Just fucking have it, please.
Yeah.
The best bit of it was the copy I had the actual original toy commercials. They edited out all the other adverts when it would break, but they left in the original vintage toy commercials, and that was the best bit about it.
You know, is
No, Keanu was my yeah, but that's hang on a minute, Patty. That was before you know, I got old and I, you know, receding hairline, so I had to trim my hair. So it's more of a Sam Winchester now. But my original haircut, if you look at my YouTube videos from 2 to 3 years ago, was clearly a Keanu. That's my timeline. Forget Back to Future's timeline. Law and Boys Post 1975, 2011 to 2012, and half of 2013. That's its Keanu hairline phrase.
I'll have to check that out after the show. I'll put it on my
213
list.
plus Sam Winchester from Supernatural.
Yes. Oh, as I was saying, yeah, there's the only other thing I could say really to round things out is we will never have to worry about there ever being a remake or a reboot of the franchise, because I recently
Promise? Can you honestly promise that?
Yeah, here's why, and this was recently Zemeckis. No, I think it was Bob Gale. No, I think it might have been Zemeckis. Yeah, it was Zemeckis. He did a interview with a Back to the Future fan site, and he said that per the contract he signed with Universal and Amblin, the only way Universal and Amblin could make a sequel or anything related to Back to the Future is with the written consent of Bob Gale and Robert Zemeckis. And
Sweet, thank you.
yeah, and both Gale, because it's their script, and both Gale and Zemeckis have said they will never ever reboot or make another sequel to Back to the Future. In their minds, it's done. There's no going back to it. So we're never going to see anything tied to the Back to the Future series in terms of a sequel, a remake, a reboot, or anything like that. So rest assured, folks, you won't have to worry about what's happening now with the Ghostbusters happening with Back to the Future.
Do you know what one of my most popular videos was that I had to take down because there was background noise? Because my telly was on in the background, and you know I don't have ads or I'm not partnered, but I realized I wasn't going to risk it when YouTube ramped up their copyright. Was when I initially found out that there was going to be a Back to the Future reboot or remake, I did a very, very pissed off, stupid little nerdy, angry rant, but not for anything other than I was like, "How dare you do this!" And it was one of my most popular videos where everyone just went, "Oh my god, I'm with you. Let's form an army and kill these people." You can.
You know what? It's just nerds being nerds. You know, it's I don't know. I mean, we're keyboard warriors. I mean,
oh, I stand by it. Even though I'm glad it will never happen, but if they build it, I will kill them.
yeah, it's like when people go out there and threaten people for having differing opinions on women in video games. Hi, Mrs. Quinn. Sorry about that. But
hey, really, it's just something I want to say because I'm watching TV and it was in Times. There was a thing in the background in Times Square when they had one of those big billboards with the clock. One of my memories of Back to the Future 2 before I saw it when it came out, and obviously at this point I was sold because I loved the original Back to the Future 1, was when they announced it, they had big billboards, didn't they, in Times Square? Like massive ones, like the side of a building, and it said it's back. And it had a countdown, like a digital countdown. Kind of like what they do with the budget deficit in the States, where it's counting up, but the opposite, and it was a counting down to when it would be released. And which made me think of this, which I was going to ask earlier on, which is Back to the Future 2 came out the same year as Batman. So stiff competition, which grossed more?
I got to think Batman. Batman, I think, was the highest grossing film of that year. I think it was 89. I believe it was number one when it got to the box office, but overall over the year, Batman was the bigger hit. I mean, nothing can touch '89's Batman at the time.
I do remember, and I wore this copy out, that I bought because the version I had before this was one I just taped off TV at Christmas, because I'm pretty
Indiana
sure
Jones was the highest grossing film of '89.
Last Crusade beat Batman.
474,000 million.
Oh
And Batman
yeah,
407.
that is true. That is true. I thought Batman considering all the hype that came into Batman, I
I'm
thought
really
it was.
surprised at that. I'm kind of glad, but I'm really surprised.
kinda
Not
glad I
that's
said
a bad
that.
movie, but
But yeah, it was Indiana Jones and Last Crusade, yeah, and then Batman, Back to the Future, and then
that was a
Look
good
who's
year.
talking.
well, Zach just named Look Who's Talking as the number 4, so I'm like, yeah, not a perfect year.
Let's not forget
Honey,
the
I
classic,
Shrunk the Kids. Ghostbusters 2. The Little
yeah.
Mermaid. Born on the 4th of July, which is one of the best war movies ever made.
Little Mermaid's my favorite Disney movie.
I'm not a big fan of early.
No, seriously, it's my favorite Disney movie.
My favourite's Duck Dynasty. No, not Duck Dynasty. The Mighty Ducks.
Dynasty. Oh, I'd love to see a Disney movie based on the Dynasty '80s sitcom. It's not sitcom, drama. Drama's too strong a word. Pulp soap.
I mean,
but done
with
in the
Emilio
animation form of
Estevez, the Duck
Beauty.
Dynamite.
Oh, the Mighty Ducks.
Yeah, that one.
Was that '89?
No, that was the 90s.
Yeah, that was the.
Go back, Patty, and look.
Well, we do appreciate you for listening in on us, Patty, and we appreciate you guys for listening in on us, because I think that's pretty much all we can say in terms of the back.
And thank you, all of you guys, for letting me, have this as the topic for this retrospective, because, as you know, I'm a big nerd for Back to the Future, so it's been so much fun just to talk pointless bollocks about the greatest movie of all time.
Well,
Halloween.
If there's something you've got a topic on, that'll be up to you guys, because I unfortunately won't be able to make it to next week's show. I'm going to be out of town visiting my folks for Halloween, so if you want whatever topic you want to do for next week.
That sounded really sinister, Miguel. It's Halloween. I will be visiting my folks. Rink, rink, rink.
No, I usually try to visit them for the holidays.
I know. I'm just taking a pic.
I do have an idea for the next episode, so as long as it doesn't cross over with what I'm thinking of doing for the next episode. But what's your plan, Burhan?
It's Halloween. No, what the fuck, man?
You want to do comic book movies part 2?
I say. It's Halloween. I agree with Zach. It's Halloween, though.
Well, no, we did comic book movies early on. That was one of our first episodes, because I remember we had like 7 or 8 people on that show, and then we did the Marvel Universe episode, the cinematic universe. So, if you want to do another comic book movies episode, sure, that'll be up to you guys.
Well, I won't be on that one though, because I'm no good at Marvel.
That's fine. That's fine. That could, like
I'm
I said,
not good at wrestling, but it never stops me on the Slamcast.
that could be something that you guys can do next week. And then when I come back for the following week, because of the episode you recently did for the Aliens video game series, I want to do an Aliens retrospective. So when I come back the following week after that, that's something that I want to do. Sure, you can start.
More importantly, the mic on here or on defunct radio program thingy. But he's in the same. I saw your post. He's in the very same vein, so I'm intrigued.
I am. All right, so
I'm not going to give any spoilers, but is it who I think it is then? Oh my God! You got Bill Nye. Oh. I was going to be on it, but I just sadly lack my stamina.
yeah, I was gonna try to call in, but if you guys are gonna be doing it at 10, that's exactly when I start my shift, so I won't be able to call in. But give my condolences, sir. Well, not condolences, but I will give my praise to the 100th episode right here on my show. Congratulations on 100 episodes, buddy. Ooh.
Ooh. Which cast?
Ooh.
The
I'm actually
Japanese.
very jealous of you, sir.
Customer service? Hello? None. Yes.
Mr. Dave, do you have anything you want to add to any of that?
Yeah, if you like your retro video games and me just waffling and talking a mass amount of pointless but nostalgic bollocks about my experiences of that game when I was a child, then come and check me out. Also, I got a couple of tag responses coming up this week or in the next few days, because I've been tagged a few times and I realised that I haven't done a vloggy waffle to camera in a week or so. But yeah, if you like your retro video games, all systems, old school, I love no system more than the other. Cough. Sega's better than Nintendo. Sorry, back then, by the way. Then come and check me out. Oh, and if you'd like to do a Sexy Biscuits intro, call me.
I don't think anybody can top getting one of the doctors to do a Sexy Biscuits intro. So keep in mind, folks, you have a standard you have to hit up.
No, it's not about that. It's about having fun and promoting YouTube channels and communities together. So come on, if you want to do Sexy Biscuits, hook me up. I'm trying to build a cache. Yeah, no. And let's not forget Chris Barry. Oh. Cough, don't forget to ask the Power Rangers.
Barry, is that Chuckle Bowers?
Rimmer.
All right, okay. All right, the Marvel and Disney clearly have a good sense of humor about it. They're smart. I figured that they were going to be smart about this and realize they can make something good out of this. So it's good. We don't have to worry about it then.
When they say "damn it, Hydra," are they actually secretly handshaking Bob in marketing? Because let's be honest, it was Bob in marketing who did it, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Under their say-so. Oh no, these trailers come out. Thanks, Bob. Our shares have just risen.
Yeah. All right, Zach Noon, do you have anything you want to promote?
Well, I'd like to promote the most highest grossing video game page on Facebook, which is video games, movies, and some random shit too. My posh voice that sounds like a transvestite for some odd reason. Yeah, well, basically I got this page. It's called Video Games, Movies, and Random Shit too. If you didn't get that the first time, and you just got to like it.
No, do it in a Victorian accent.
So I got this page, video games, movies, and some random shit page. Oh, I can't do it.
People, just remember, Danny Dyer has apparently endorsed that page.
He's dead to me. What are you talking about? He's in EastEnders, that guy. Yeah, I'm single. Yeah, I just got dumped by a chick. So yeah.
Aw, I'm sorry to hear that, buddy, but at least now you have more time for our show.
Yeah, it starts an hour late.
Yeah, you're
4:20 in the morning.
Aren't you lucky you know us?
Yeah, of course. Haven't you read on Gawker and all these other things? Guys like us, that's all we do is badmouth women.
But why would you want to badmouth a woman? They're awesome.
Oh my god.
No, they're bad if they smell like fish. If they're not well tamed.
Really brilliant, because my girlfriend bought me a Lego DeLorean.
That's right,
I don't
folks.
want to be virginity protected for all my life. That sucks.
Listen, I would just like to end by saying we here at the Retro Unlim Network and the Untitled Movie Show are very pro-woman, okay? So let's not get any anger aboard. We all love women.
Now you're making us all sound like chauvinistic wife beaters.
I mean, look at the bird I've got on my Skype photo. I mean, that's saying it.
All right.
Now, I've asked you to take that picture down of my mother many times.
All right, guys. All right, twitter.com/unmovieshow is the address to follow the show. We've only got about 18 followers, so you guys gotta show your support. Twitter.com/unmovieshow. Follow us on there. We'll be keeping you posted on any sort of new bits and pieces going on with the show. So for myself, for Michael Burhan, for Dave Wade, and for Zach Noon, this is the Untitled Movie Show. Take us out, Huey Lewis, in the news. No sound. Well, I don't have the soundboard with me. It sucks.
Should have been Johnny Be Good.
celebrity voices are impersonated. No celebrities were harmed in filming of this episode.
Excuse me, sir. The show's over.
Get away, zit-face.
Did I ever come around the critic?
Yeah, as the guy that just walked up and talked to Jay Sherman.